As we're getting settled down for our next segment, I just want, Jane, if you wouldn't mind standing up to say hello. Jane Adlington-Broomer is the General Secretary at MYBA, and thank you for joining us this morning. Please give a hand to Jane, and thanks very much to MYBA. You know, this partnership, if you will, is something that's very important to me. I think it's really valuable for the industry that we are linking arms and working together. To use a trite old saying, a rising tide raises all ships. And I think it's super important that we align with our ideals. They are aligned, actually. It's about collaborating. It's not about marking territory. We do this event. We will also do the Superyacht Law Summit at the beginning of the Monaco show. I think that's September 25th this year. But the next event that we'll do together is what we call the IYBA MYBA Summit, which will take place at the Monaco Yacht Club on May 15th and 16th. The first day will be dedicated to new build and refit, and the second day will be yacht sales, charter, and the law. And I think you'll see a robust schedule for that. If you can find your way to Monaco in May, I don't think you'll be disappointed. In the Department of Shameless Promotion, you might notice that there are a few pillowcase banners scattered around the room. IYBA has quite a few products that we've brought to market over the last several years to try to bring support to the industry. IYBA obviously being the association. Yachter is our public-facing, lead-generating advertising site that is driven by yachtbroker.org, the only industry-controlled and operated MLS. That works in concert with a product called BoatDox, which is your document processing system. And last but by no means least is IYAC. And that's what I'm here to talk about this morning is IYAC. So we started, sorry, I'm a little bit mobility impaired in my old age, so I'm going to relax and have a chat with you. Several years ago, it was brought to my attention and consequently brought to the board's attention that dispute resolution in the yachting industry really had a lot of gaps in it, especially for the American clientele and the American brokerage community. London Maritime was a staid and storied institution that had been solving disputes for many, many moons. The Society of Maritime Arbitrators up in New York was far more commercially based than the yachting space based. The American Arbitration Association was a great institution, but if you wanted to settle a yacht dispute, you might get a soybean farmer and a textile executive settling your dispute for you. So the idea came forward to form an association. My apologies, Miami Maritime Arbitration was the one that did get a bit of yacht space, but primarily dealt with Miami cargo ships, passenger ships, things of that nature. Mike Karcher, Mike, where are you? You're here in the room somewhere. There he is. Mike, oh, you put a jacket on. I didn't recognize you. Mike Karcher has led that charge for many, many moons. And in the spirit of collaboration, as I was just discussing, we talked about how could we bring a product forward for the yachting space, a alternative dispute resolution platform that would be tailored to the yachting community with people that know our unique industry and give the people that do have disagreements in our industry the ability to settle those disagreements with depth of knowledge and that niche experience that's necessary to come to a speedy, successful, satisfactory, and cost-effective resolution. It's been working. What we did is we started by incorporating IYAC as the default dispute resolution platform in all of the IYBA agreements. It started with the listing agreement and the purchase and sale agreement. We brought it over. Thank you to David Moss for his great help in structuring a bareboat charter agreement or a demise charter agreement, a time charter agreement, crew services agreements, captain's instructions, and what's the fourth one? Hurricane addendum is the newest one, but there's a fourth one that charter certification. Thank you very much. So in all of the IYBA documents, the default dispute resolution platform is IYAC. We have also been quite honored to find that in many custom-built agreements done by the law firms around the world that are representing clients in the yachting space, we're finding the IYBA, the IYAC clause for dispute resolution incorporated into those agreements. So we're very proud of that. We're very happy to see that happening. And you know, as with any kind of a new thing like this, it takes a little while to get started. I won't say that I wasn't a little bit discouraged at first, because it's in the agreements. Don't tell me nobody's fighting about anything. But one of the most, you know, the vast majority of the audience here is in the legal community, so you guys understand this as a matter of due course. But for those that not in the legal industry, one of the things that you have to understand is that if you take an issue to court, it's public knowledge. It's a matter of public record. In dispute resolution through arbitration, which is binding as opposed to mediation, which is non-binding, which means that if you don't agree with the decision, you get a second bite at the apple. If you do use arbitration, the finding is binding, or the ruling is binding, and it is confidential. If you are granted, if you're granted a finding in your favor and the person who loses doesn't pay, you can take that to court. You can take that judgment to court and have it upheld, or have it, what's the word I'm looking for, David? Have it enforced, thank you, by the court. My feet and my head are starting to give out on me in my old age. So arbitration is the elegant solution for our industry. IYAC's rules are rules that are based upon the foundation of the rules in all of the other well-known and well-respected arbitration forums. Mike did a great job of going through them from stem to stern, taking Miami Maritime, taking AAA, taking London, and tweaking them to be what they should and could be for the yachting industry. That all having been said, there's nothing that doesn't need a tune-up now and then. There's nothing that doesn't need a little maintenance. And it's time to do an oil change, and lube, oil, and filter on our rules. So what we're going to do, we wanted to get through the show here. It is a bit of a distraction. We had a little distraction over the course of the last year or two that some of you may be familiar with. It was a very expensive distraction, I might add. But it sucked all the air out of the room. And just as a complete aside, the antitrust suit that I talked about last year at this event that was filed, that we were named in as a defendant, was dismissed in January on MLK Day, on Martin Luther King's birthday. We got good news that the judge had dismissed the case, gave the plaintiffs 21 days to refile. The plaintiffs appealed for more time. They wanted 80 days. The judge granted them until March 10th, which was a 51-day time frame for them to refile. And in some very, very clever lawyering, they were able to take the case up to the 11th District Court, which I guess is the appeals court. I am just a recovering broker, so I don't know all these details. But they appealed the case up to a higher court, and there has been is it a stay, or the dismissal's been vacated? So it's kind of up in the air right now. It's not happening at as much of a fevered pitch as it was happening through the 11 months or 10 months of 2024. But good news was delivered, and of course, you can't always take that to the bank. So we've got our fingers crossed and anxiously hoping that we're going to get a favorable ruling from the upper court. But nonetheless, 2024, obviously we survived some distractions, and what we'll be able to do here in 25 is to revisit the IYAC rules, dedicate some time and resources to reviewing that. I am president of IYAC, and what I will do is I will appoint a president's council of some of our senior attorneys that are very, very well experienced in the arbitration world. We'll review the rules. We'll bring forward recommendations for a new set of rules. And then as soon as we have that done, what we will do is we will invite candidates to apply to become certified arbitrators in our next round of training. Right now, we have 30 arbitrators from around the world. lawyers, insurance specialists, naval architects, yacht brokers, shipyard executives, finance people. We've got people from all walks of the yachting industry that are certified arbitrators. And one of the things to remember is if you're a yacht broker, for example, several of the ex-presidents of IYBA went through the training and they're certified arbitrators. And what we came to realize early in the game was that while they may be reasonable thinking people and able to help satisfy a dispute, they may not be well steeped in the rules of law. In fact, the chances are they're not steeped in the rules of law at all. So any non-lawyer arbitrator is required to have a lawyer mentoring at least his first 3 arbitrations, his or her first 3 arbitrations, until they're signed off by the lawyer that they feel comfortable that they could run an arbitration on their own. So how have we been doing? Where are we at? What's going on with it? As I said, it's in all of our documents as the boilerplate, as the default dispute resolution platform. But what we've done in 23, we had 2 arbitrations. One of them was under 200,000 but over 30. One was under $1 million and over 200. Breach of contract and a broker's commission, and the awards were made from the arbitrators. We did have a breach of PSA, which was a cross-border claim, and that was settled, which does happen. And then in 24, we had 4, 3 of which are still ongoing. And in 25, we've already had 4, and it's only the 19th of March. So I was thinking that since we decided to start the IYAC, everybody was going to get along and play well in the sandbox, and maybe it was just because they didn't know there was another place to take their arguments. So here is where you can do it. And I would strongly encourage you, if you're not familiar with IYAC or were not familiar with IYAC before this morning, please do check it out. It's IYAC.org. Any of the lawyers in the room, I would dare say, are familiar with it, know it. I like to think that a lot of them like it. But anything in the yachting space, we're well suited to help you resolve whatever arguments you may have. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you under the category of shameless self-promotion at IYBA, and also something that I think is a bit unique that we're able to do for the legal community, is we're able to incorporate the lawyers into BoatDox. So on the smaller side of the industry, you know, the brokers don't engage with the lawyers very often for the, you know, the 42-foot XYZ or even the 55, 60-foot such and such boat. And in my day, it was primarily because the money was pretty low on that stuff. Nowadays, the money's gotten big. The lawyers are more involved, as they should be. And one of the things that I echo to the brokerage community as often as they will listen to me is don't be afraid of the lawyers. I know I used to be. When I was a broker, the last thing you wanted to do was to get a lawyer involved because it was complicating the deal. And I've come to learn that it's really not. What it'll do more often than not, if you choose the right lawyer, and I would say that the lawyers in this room are the right ones. Jeff Cox, I don't know, but Jeff's a recovering broker as well. But the fact of the matter is, they'll help bring your deal to fruition more smoothly. Will it cost a couple of dollars? Yes, it will. But at the end of the day, it'll cost you less in the grand scheme. But what we've chosen to do with BoatDox is make provision to invite the lawyers into the deal. So if Andrew Troyer's on the dock on a Saturday afternoon with a client and the guy wants to buy a 112 Westport and he says, Andrew, you know what, let's pull the trigger on this thing. Here's the numbers, here are my dates. He can call David Moss and say, David, I've got a deal with, you know, Daddy Warbucks here. He wants to buy the boat. Here's the name of the boat. Here's the money. Here are the dates. Here are the particulars. Would you please jump in and create the deal? Now, David's going to use an IYBA agreement, but David's also going to use his addendums that he uses at Ali Moss or Jeff's going to use the one he uses at Cox, or Umberto's going to use the ones that he uses at Robert Allen Law. But you have the ability now to go into BoatDox and start the deal, and you can share back and forth with the attorneys and with the brokers. I'm going to show you a brief 3-minute video of how things work in BoatDox and some of the simplicities of it.
Adding and inviting outside help in BoatDox is very easy. Maybe you have a closing agent firm you use, or a lawyer, or you want to add just somebody to help you do it. So all you need to do is, if you're a company admin, go to your users page and then go to participants. Then maybe some have already been added by you, but these are particular to your company. They could just know that this person could be assisting other brokerages as well. Once their account is established in BoatDox, you'll invite them and it will merge and allow your company to be one of the companies they can access. So in this case, let's just say if we want to add a new outside participant, we just click invite user, we check participant, and then we just fill out their information. BoatDox is smart enough in the background to know that if the email address is linked to another participant account, then it will merge your data with their data based on what you give them access to. They won't see everything, they'll only see what you allow them to see, which is nothing until you give them access per document. Once you click invite, they will get an invitation email from BoatDox saying that your company has been added to their list, and then once you add documents, those documents will appear within their login area. So very simple. Now that's setting them up from a company admin. Now if a broker is logged in and wants to add them to any particular deal, they would just go to that transaction, click participants, and then add. And those people that your company has authorized to have access are in the dropdown. They can't create their own, but they can choose from pre-approved people. And then I click save, and that information will link right here. And then here's where we can determine which documents they can have access to. So let's say it's a lawyer who only gets access to the purchase and sale agreement. Then I click OK, and they get access to one document. And I can click to see which it is right there. And I can always edit and add more. So very strategic, limited access, and you can delegate as you wish. Now, to give you some comfort in how this process works, let's actually log out and then log in as this lawyer. So that way you can see what the other side will see. And then when that third-party participant logs in, they're only seeing the transactions relevant. And you can see that we've got the contract we assigned with only one document enabled. And if I were to go in and click edit, it's only the purchase and sale agreement that we authorized. So then they can do the work as an authorized party from your company.
So if I'm not mistaken, that's unique to BoatDox. There's no other platform out there that you can use to process transactional documents that allows you to invite the legal community. There isn't another one that you guys have access to, is there? Okay, all right. So with all the IYBA documents, and this is a product that is free to the members. If you're a member of any professional association, you have at this time free access to yachtbroker.org, which feeds Yachter, the public-facing site, and you also have access to BoatDox. That's all I have. I wanted to talk about IYAC a little bit, and I wanted to give the attorneys in the room a little sneak peek on BoatDox. BoatDox.org is where you would go in if you would like to create your account. As I said, there's no charge for it right now. We will be activating a revenue model for the digital products sometime through the course of the first part of this year. We're working through some of the issues that we have to make sure are absolutely rock solid and expandable, reliable, resilient. Make sure that everything is what we promise it to be before we can do that. But you'll see that happen here directly. So what I'm going to do is, with that, I'm going to invite our next group up onto the stage. Tenders and Tenders for Charter.